Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And you had already trained for a while in Alamogordo,
Yeah.
but you probably didn't do any. You probably didn't do much flying there, or maybe a
No.
little bit with the new B-24s.
No,
Or
no. In Herington, I didn't even touch a B-24. I don't think.
no, just
No.
got it ready to
We
stage.
just they in the staging area there, whatever the crew done. I got in the plane. I got orders to Morrison Field, Florida. And that's the way it started.
Tell us now about you wanted to talk about the flight from Herington to Florida. You said there were some problems, or it was challenging to get to land there because of the weather or because of the
Well, the
instrumentation?
weather was occluded. The field was occluded, and I had to circle through patches of clouds to get down into the field. And finally, I broke through. I forget what altitude I was flying, but anyway, we got through there, and I think the next day or the day after, or 3 days later, they gave me an envelope. They also gave me a pouch, this is what they said was $10,000 in gold money, with that stamp, in case I got in trouble anywhere I needed to get us out. And they also gave me that a heading, but I didn't even know it. Harry got the heading, and after so many 100 miles out, I was supposed to open the envelope up and tell you where I'm going. The heading was, I forget now.
Well, I'll tell you where it was.
Towards Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you basically okay. So I gotta move ahead real quick. You and your crew left Herington around 7 December 1943 for Morrison Field in West Palm Beach, Florida. That was going to be your port of embarkment or embarkmentation.
Right.
Crews were now assigned to the Caribbean wing of the Air Transportation Command, the ATC. The ATC operated bases along the route to the war zone to transport men and supplies and to assist bomber crews. The ATC wing operated bases on the southern route down the Caribbean coast. At this point, the air crews had no knowledge of where they were going to go. They were only given a heading. The sealed orders were given to the crews just before takeoff of each leg for each leg. So evidently, you did get new orders, I guess.
I don't
remember
recall that.
Okay,
but Harry Parr took care of that. Is Harry still living? Or
no, we'll have to find out. He's in the Columbus area, but we can find out for you. But the orders were marked secret, so they were classified.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't be open until you'd been in the air for 2 hours. Okay, so you left on the first leg into the combat zone on 10 December. You flew approximately 1,700 miles to Waller Field on the island of Trinidad.
Oh yeah, but at first I landed at Puerto Rico, Herington Field.
Okay, so you went to Herington Field.
Herington Field, Puerto Rico, then to Trinidad.
Okay.
And then to Natal, Brazil.
Yeah, let me. So Trinidad, small island. Okay, so then Venezuela,
smaller.
Yeah, and then the first leg took 10.5 hours, and the second leg was approximately 1,200 miles to Belém or Natal, whatever, Brazil.
Natal, yeah.
Yeah,
Belém,
yes. That flight.
Natal, Brazil, and then Dakar, Africa.
Yeah, so the flight to Brazil, the second flight to Brazil was approximately 7.5 hours. Took you over jungles of the Amazon River.
Right.
And some B-24s went down in the Amazon jungle.
That's true.
Due to bad weather or mistaken navigation. Okay. Then the third leg flew to Natal. So you actually went from, it looks like from Belém
from Trinidad.
Trinidad to Natal.
Yeah, Natal.
Okay.
And then from Natal, I went across the ocean. That's where I hit that bad weather.
Okay, so going to Dakar, you're talking about then from traveling from Natal to Dakar,
Africa.
What happened then? Go ahead.
Right through in the middle of the ocean, the clouds, the formation of clouds and bad weather went to the troposphere. You couldn't get over it. And we had to fly at least 12,000 feet because there were German submarines in the water. You couldn't fly any lower. But it was so occluded that there were winds on one side of the wing, 100 miles an hour and 200 down. We just went up from 12,000 feet to 19,000 feet and down. We're just both, Morrison and I was just fighting that damn plane. And when we got out of the clouds somehow, maybe 200 miles or so before we hit Dakar, Africa. No, Natal, Brazil to Dakar, yeah, Dakar.
Yes.
I says to Welch was my engineer. I said, Welch, I remember, Sergeant Welch, take a reading on I'll try a level, see how much fuel we got.
Mm-hmm.
He told me, he says, I think we only have 500 gallons left. I says, oh my God, we'll be in a drink if we had any bad weather. So I says, boy, I try to lean the engines, lower speed, lower, to make sure, and I told Harry, make sure we're heading in the right direction, because I got low on fuel. And when we got over the land, first thing I says, man, we probably made it. And I says to my radio operator, I forget his name, and I says, don't answer the tower. The tower said, was asking me, ship so-and-so, would you give me a reading, you know? And I says, don't even give her our tail number, 603. I says, I'm going to buzz the field. I took that bomb, the tower. He was over there. He says, what are you trying to do? He's hollering. And the tower was right there. And I went right near him like that. And I went up. And I put the gear down, lucky thing. And I landed on a steel mat.
Oh, my goodness.
The mat was like this. And I landed there. And I thought, I think Morrison and I were just sweated all up. That's when I told Welch, I says, go and get that bottle of booze out of I bought a case of whiskey. I didn't drink that much. But I bought it in Herington, Kansas. And I put it in the ship. And we all took a swig. And as soon as we got done, didn't even get out of the plane. It says, everybody stay in the plane. A guard came over. I says, why? He says, you might be bringing in malaria. So they put a hose in there and they gassed us. And we took another drink. I says, holy Christ, do we have to go through all this crap? You know? And that's the way we got. And when I think we stayed overnight, and then our next deal was, what was it, Marrakech?
Yeah, let me
French Morocco.
Let me give you, because that trip from Natal
Yeah.
to Dakar was long. It was 2,200 miles. So that's when you're talking about the fuel tanks. The fuel tanks had to be topped off, and the plane had to be in perfect working condition because you had about an hour variance of fuel.
That's all.
And if you didn't, something went wrong, they told you to ditch the plane in the ocean, right?
Right. Well, there was a plane here, Ascension Island, they called. That's where the B-25s and Marauders went, on the right side of Dakar. But we couldn't land there because they didn't have, the runway wasn't long enough.
Yeah. Your plane was equipped with survival gear such as life rafts, first aid kits, flares, emergency rations, life preservers, and other things. The navigator did the initial navigation with the radio operator locating a radio beam to follow approximately 200 miles from Dakar.
Yeah.
Most crews landed with less than a half hour of fuel remaining, leaving a very little margin of safety. Some planes ran out of fuel on the runway just after they touched down in Dakar. Dakar, being the westernmost part of Africa, just north of the equator, was very hot and humid. The sleeping quarters and mess facilities were all in tents. Men had to sleep under mosquito nets for peace from the insects. You talked about the malaria. The local natives were notorious for stealing, and everything had to be guarded, including the plane. The fifth leg of the journey across the Sahara Desert was a 7-hour flight of approximately 1,400 miles to Marrakech, Morocco.
French Morocco. Marrakech.
The flight required a difficult crossing of the Atlas Mountains. The mountains were 14,000 feet. Go ahead.
That's where we landed in Marrakech, and the crew wanted to go into town. Yeah. So we went into town, and I says to the fellas, I says, please, I says, whatever you guys do, don't touch any of these women. They're all like this, and dancers, and you walk into these dungeons in the hotels, and all these sheiks are sitting there like this with their wives behind, and they're smoking that dope. Yeah. The rooms are just full of like that smoke, you know. And I says, that's dope, fellas, you know. So my bombardier touched one of the women. When we got to Italy, I had to take him to a doctor. He caught the venereal disease. Cook.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my grandfather said, he told my grandmother he didn't teach it.
Here I'm a young kid. I know from being around. you know, that I went so many places to train as a pilot. And I knew what, you know, the guys would tell me a lot of, I'd be listening to the older guys. And I says, man, I ain't getting in no trouble. No way.
The flight to Marrakech required you to fly over the Atlas Mountains. The mountains were 14,000 feet high, but the crew could not fly over 12,000 feet without oxygen. You didn't get oxygen for the flight over. They wouldn't give you tanks for some reason. The only way through the mountains was a narrow pass at 8,000 feet. Okay. During the period, several planes crashed into the mountains. Only one plane from the 450th group was lost in the mountains. The crews saw the first sign of war at Marrakech, where there was a large group of German prisoners of war held in confinement. The briefing for the final leg informed them the actual destination would not be England, would be Italy. The journey from Marrakech to Tunisia,
Algiers, yeah.
Yep, was approximately 1,000 miles and 6 hours flying time.
Yeah,
Tunis was the crew's real introduction to the war. The ground was littered with burned out and shot up trucks of all types of military equipment, which was primarily German from the North African campaign. The final battle in Africa that led to the defeat of Rommel. Okay, so the field was covered with bomb craters, and most of the hangars no longer had roofs. All manners of crashed and burned out aircraft littered the airfield. The flight from Tunis to Manduria was the final leg of the crew of the war zone.
Around Mount Vesuvius.
This is 500 miles and approximately 4 hours flying time over the Mediterranean. Their home was an old Italian fighter base with 7,000 foot dirt strip. I tell you what, tell me about that flight to Manduria. We'll stop, and then I'll bring some pictures up later on to show you Manduria.
When I was entering Manduria, the field, I was ready to make a landing and take a look. And here's some, I think the French were bad pilots. He's landing towards me, and I'm landing this way. So I think I had to go around. And finally the tower said, talking in French or something to this pilot, you're flying the wrong way. We called them frogs.
You know, French pilots?
Yeah. So we landed there, and that's where I went into that hotel. We stayed there, and I took the crew in there. And from there on, we took off, I think, the next day or so, towards Algiers or Tunis. And when we got to Tunis, we went on, I think I went on one of these Tunerville trolleys, you know, the little streetcars they have. They had one there. And I stood there with somebody else. We were going someplace. I can't remember. And there was a bunch of sheiks behind, sitting there like this. And the women, I told this guy, I said, don't even look around. You'll get a knife in your back. Don't make friends with nobody. Finally, we got off. Then I found out there was a shoe shine in the village there, where the shoe shiner was taking some officer's shoes, and he put a hand grenade in there and blew them up.
Really?
And I says to my crew, listen, we got to get out of this now.
This was Tunis that were most of the problem.
Tunis, and that's when we got out.
But most of the stops...
I remember Mount Vesuvius flying next to it in Italy. Mount Vesuvius. I remember that.
So most of the stops you had a day over.
About a day over, yeah.
And they were makeshift, maybe tents, or were they buildings?
2 days. It all depends on the fuel. If they could get the fuel to you real quick, you know, gas up your plane. I met, in Marrakech, I think I met some pilots that were night fighters. I'm not sure now, whether Algiers or Tunis. And they were night fighters, and they used to sit in the daytime with glasses, get their eyes accustomed to the dark. And they flew bullfighters, which is a night fighter. Were made out of, what do you call that, the wood?
Not bamboo, or no balsam, or?
They put on the walls. I forget what it is.
It's got drywall.
Drywall or something like that, real light wood. And they flew fast, you know. But you'd hit them, they'd fall apart. But anyhow, I met pilots there. And we got to Italy.